And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And folks, we got a great conversation today. Over the weekend, that was a third assassination attempt against President Trump and White House officials. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the crime in Chicago where 2 Chicago police were killed. And also, we're going to dip into the Southern legal policy that's been giving money to the Ku Klux Klan. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know. You're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. I'm your host, Pastor David. Y'all come on here. And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And first, let me give all praises to Yahuwah and Yahusha, that's God in Christ in Hebrew. To the American people and patriots across this country, this is seeming to be ridiculous. Over the weekend at a press conference, at a event by the White House for correspondence, there was a man who tried to rush in to attempt to kill the president and many White House officials that he could. Now, we have to keep our minds open to the fact that as President Trump and the White House get closer to proving that the Democrats are behind a lot of illegal stuff that they've been doing the whole time, and yet they try to maintain as if they're totally innocent. But it's because of this rhetoric that they've been doing and the lies they've been spewing across the country. I just say to myself, it's the Democrats that's doing it, and the American people need to hold them accountable, and we need to disband the Democratic Party. No matter what you say, it has to be gone. And in saying that, I'm going to get my team in today. What's up, Dre?
Doing well. How you doing?
Good. What's up, Doc?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Guys, over the weekend, the third assassination attempt, man, I think this is getting so far out of hand. It seems like every time somebody gets close to one of the Democratic leadership, like Ilhan Omar and all the other leaders that are there, Chuck Schumer, all this stuff happening right now is part of the Democratic regime. And I think that they're the ones responsible behind this, because this guy was just supposed to be a normal guy, but he was looking at websites that hate the president and so forth. What are your thoughts on that, Doc?
Well, apparently he went to the No Kings event. And again, it is definitely, he's been, how should I say it, radicalized by the propaganda. But the bigger question is, we've all known that the Smith-Month Modernization Act could lead down this road. This is why politicians take advantage of it, because they are absolved of any impropriety that they're doing within their positions, right? They're not accountable under the Smith-Month Modernization Act. The bigger question is, why hasn't it been reversed? Because everybody takes advantage of it on both sides. Now, you got to remember, the Never Trumpers were worse than the Democrats. Okay. Even before the Democrats got involved in really going on a hate campaign against this one person and anyone who supported him. The problem is it's wrong on both sides.
What,
And
Dre?
they've both created this environment that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm. Dre?
You're spot on again, Dr. Nichols. I just want to add this. Recently, Virginia just had an election, and I had a conversation with a family member. The special election was about redistricting, and the family member called me and asked me, what did you think about the special election? And I was like, oh man, I think people that voted for the 10-1 redistricting are stupid. Like, I just don't understand why you would give your rights away. And he crashed out. All right. Started saying that, why would I support a pedophile? You have 5 kids. And I was just taken aback. But after reading the manifesto of the shooter, this is what you're seeing. People are caught up in this rhetoric. In no place, in no legal court has it been proven that our president is a pedophile. They're throwing out all these wild things on the internet that people are believing. People are believing it. And then we also saw that as soon as this event happened, they were just like, well, it was staged. And I was just like, how are you even doing that? So
because Obama said it best. I think it was a couple of years ago when he was at a college, and he says you throw in just enough disinformation with truth and you muddy the waters, and you will actually be able to control the people. This is where we're at, because nobody knows what the truth is right now, right?
But you know, the thing of it is that this hotel was the same place where Ronald Reagan was shot.
Wow.
Brady was shot.
Same hotel.
Yep. And so, this leads to the point where President Trump, they do need a ballroom at the White House, and that's why he's making one. So these type of incidents would happen. And when you say it was staged, who would stage? I mean,
third assassination.
But they're saying they've staged it 3 times, and here is some people's justification on that. He's trying to get sympathy. He's trying to make himself the victim. But here's my thing. Okay, so let's just go with that logic. And they're staging it. Well, it would have to be somebody on the inside doing it, right? Outside of his purview, if that is actually the case. And if it is, who's trying to kill him from the inside? Because it's not happening on the outside. They're just using other people as patsies.
Well, if you think about it, man, who would put their life on the line in a staged event? Because if you come in there just like he did, I mean, he could have got killed. They would have killed him right off the spot, man. So it's kind of ridiculous for the people to think that way, but that's the rumors that the Democrats continue to circulate out into the media because of the position that they're in. I just think that what's going on with Omar and the lady down there, Letitia James, and Barack Obama they're about to arrest him about the Russian thing. I think that all of this stuff is culminating on the Democrats, and they're being seen, the Southern Poverty legal system. I mean, all of these entities are liberal entities that have continued to lie, cheat, and steal the American people. And so I just think that nothing is staged. Everything that happens. And to the American people and patients across this country, we have to be well aware of the people that we're dealing with. And this is something that the Republican Party needs to look at and make sure that we get on top of this, because this is the 3rd attempt and we cannot continue on this. This man's life has been put in jeopardy by a lot of misinformation that the Democrats are putting out there, man. And I just think if we don't disband them, they're going to try another attempt. Let me tell you.
And Pastor Laurie, I've heard a lot of the same sources saying that it's only been 3 attempts, but I think there was actually a 4th attempt because he was at the border and someone tried to start something there. So I just don't know why people aren't counting that one, if that's not the one that they're counting, because we're talking about Pennsylvania, we're talking about the one that is at the golf course, and this
Florida.
last one, but I don't think they're.
But there was a
including the one
4th
that
one.
happened
You're
at the
right, and
border.
it kind of went under the radar. It was like if you didn't catch it, you didn't see it.
Right.
Well, that's the sad thing about it, man, is that, President Trump has made leaps and bounds fixing this country. And all the mess that the Democrats and Joe Biden and Barack Obama created with the transgenders and all the stuff that they did to this country, the money they done stole, like Minnesota, Illinois, all the blue states are in the red because they've stolen taxpayer dollars. And now that it's all coming out, man, it's going to be a lot of people arrested. Let's play this clip and we'll talk about it.
Now to the terrifying moments after gunshots rang out at last night's White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington, D.C. It happened at the Hilton Hotel there. Secret Service agents rushed to evacuate President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and the First Lady, who were sitting there on the stage. Hundreds of people were gathered for the annual event, which celebrates freedom of the press. The suspected gunman is now in custody. Officials tell us he ran through a security checkpoint, exchanging gunfire with agents and police. This morning, we are learning that he was a guest at the hotel where this event took place. Investigators believe he planned this attack well in advance. ABC's Pierre Thomas has the latest.
This was the chaotic scene as a man rushed past the security checkpoint at the White House Correspondents' Dinner last night with shots fired before the suspect was tackled to the ground by the Secret Service.
He was armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives.
And here's the suspect close up, lying shirtless on the ground, identified by law enforcement sources as 31-year-old Cole Allen of Torrance, California. The evidence growing that the suspect may have planned the attack well in advance. Officials said Allen was a guest at the Washington Hilton where the event took place. And according to law enforcement officials briefed on the investigation, he's believed to have booked a room in early April.
It is clear, based upon what we know so far, that this individual was intent on doing as much harm and as much damage as he could.
According to law enforcement sources, Allen is allegedly declining to answer questions, but allegedly made some reference to targeting administration officials, but was not specific. Overnight, the FBI, Secret Service, and local law enforcement launching a massive nationwide investigation into Allen's background and to try to track his recent movements. He is believed to have traveled from Los Angeles to Chicago to D.C. before checking into the hotel on Saturday. Only hours after the attack, the FBI and SWAT teams were already descending on the suspect's home in California. Authorities also have warrants for Allen's mobile devices and computers as they seek to exploit any social media posts and to look for other evidence. Allen is a trained mechanical engineer working as a tutor, according to a LinkedIn page connected to him. He graduated from Caltech in 2017 and from California State University, Dominguez Hills in 2025, according to representatives for both schools. Pierre Thomas, ABC News, Washington.
All right,
there's
guys.
Also questions. There's also, because see, what they left out of that report, and I've found in some reports, is that his family members were concerned about his mental state and the threats that he had been making, and they reported him to authorities. So
Really?
Again, where was the local FBI following up on this person? Because they were very overt in their statements. It was read on 60 Minutes, which Donald Trump got really upset about. He was like, y'all are trash. But at the same time, it gives us a purview. And you know what? I think Ben Crump might be his representative. What do you think?
He might.
That's going to be his attorney, because this is an ambulance chase situation.
Yes, he is.
I don't know, Dr. Nichols, because the left is coming out that he's mixed race. So if it ain't black, I don't know if
look, as long as part of it is chocolate, he'll be there. He's an ambulance chaser.
But you know what, guys? When I first saw it, I was like, "Hey, that's a black man." But
he's biracial.
It's really sad. That these people are. It seems
are you
like
hearing Pastor Laurie right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not hearing him for some reason. I'm gonna come out and jump back in.
Okay. It's what's the sad thing about it is that all these people who are just being indoctrinated, just like when the guy that shot Charlie Kirk, I mean, he was going to these different dark sites and they were continuing to, assess these places, man, and their mind just wasn't there, So it's really sad, Doc, to see this. And people are making excuses for this. The Democrats are looking for ways to try to get away from under Trump's investigations, and I'm telling you, I just think it's them. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's both. I do believe it's both parties because, like I said, there are still never Trumpers, and there are definitely Democrats, socialists, and communists in our country that do not want to see this country in a better state. I don't care who's in the seat. There are just people working against the freedom of the people overall, but they want us to fight one another and leave the politicians out of it. The politicians are instigators, right? They just want to instigate and get us mad at each other. So we're fighting on the ground, and then they'll be like, look, the people are crazy. We need to lock them up. That's what they want. They want this to ensue violence on the streets. Look, we are way too close to June, y'all. We're close to the summertime. Okay. And we know what happens every summer. They need that summer of love type situation where cities are burned to the ground because of the rhetoric. And they don't have it right now because everybody from all different backgrounds and nationalities are like, wait a minute, we need to get together to save our country. We can't be fighting against one another. They can't have it.
And that's the whole thing of it is that the blue cities are a hellhole. And I was talking to Darren Bailey, who's running for governor of Illinois, and he made the comments that, Chicago is a hellhole, and it is because of the leadership. J.B. Pritzker, Brandon Johnson. I mean, the legislative body, the super PAC Democrats have made Chicago a hellhole. And my message to him is just stop saying and apologizing for something that's true. Chicago is a hellhole because of the bad leadership, the policing, the street takes over, all the things that are happening in the city of Chicago had made it that way. And so we just have to be honest with ourselves and call a spade, that these blue cities have not been following the law. They're stealing money. There are all sorts of things that the Democrats have done that they're trying to hide. Dre, your thoughts?
Yeah, and Pastor Laurie, I think you're right about what you're saying about Bailey, because I think that he should own it and that he should put up solutions and tell people why he's going to fix it with them. It's time to put these old politics, machine politics out of the way and build something new.
Yeah. Because I don't blame the immigrants that are here. I blame the policies and the governmental entities and persons that brought them here, right? They didn't just come here. They were supported in coming here.
Well, as a immigrant, I could understand too the money that's being offered, housing, transportation.
It's treason, but yeah.
I mean, they're being offered a lot of money to come to the United States, and I think anybody that's from other countries would try to jump in on that because of the fact that it betters their lives and their children's lives. But there are rules that you have to follow, and that's the problem that I have. If you come to the country, come legally, follow the rules, because as an American, I can't go anywhere else and get what the illegals are getting here with everything that they've gotten so far. So we just have to keep our borders tight, and we have to set some kind of structure so that they can do it the right way. But as of now, they don't care because the Democrats are allowing them to do whatever they want to do, and then try to make it seem like it's our fault, the American people, that we're not accepting these people who are bringing crimes, drugs, sex trafficking to this country, man. It's ridiculous. And the fact that, too, is that the immigrants are so brazen, they feel like that we owe them something. And
they've been propped up. They've been propped up. At this point, anybody else who comes here illegally, or even the people that Democrats and some Republicans are fighting to keep here illegally. At this point, it's treason. At this point, you have allowed an invasion and you are giving them aid and comfort, and they know it. And they're demanding it, and they're doing it through these NGOs. I came across the post on X where it said there's been over $14 trillion given to NGOs. Let me say that again. Trillion, not billion, not million, $1 trillion to support the invasion that is going on right now in our country. That's treasonous. There are people that need to be in prison right now.
Exactly.
Period.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why the Trump administration is examining all these NGOs and organizations that deal with the support of people coming into the country. They are getting rid of a lot of these programs and questioning their tactics and everything. So I'm glad that is a priority. And I'm glad that you guys are both making the distinction that, you know, it's not about the immigrants, it's about the policies. Because even if we look at the great waves of people that were coming in when it was white Europeans coming in the 19th century, they were actually brought in by companies from companies from Europe that had agreements with factories that were bringing people on ships. Were bringing people on ships. So a lot of people are just like, oh, they came and they were just, you know, trying to improve their lives. No, that's not the only thing that was happening. The companies were trying to get that cheap labor as quickly as possible.
Yes, Ellis Islanders is what they refer to.
That's right.
But they still were vetted. They were still vetted, and people that had suspicious diseases, they were quarantined. They were just not let into the country. We have over 300 ports of legal entry. And we're still getting people coming here illegally. That's a problem. We still have people overstaying their visas. That's a problem. We still have chain migration. That's an issue. I mean,
you know, guys, what's really sad is that the Republicans and the Democrats work for the American people. And
they don't.
You would think this is what they're going to Congress for. You would think that they would be doing and trying to better America. But it seems as though the Democratic Party has their mind set on how they want to take this country over, how they want to continue to destroy the schools, how they want to continue to promote homosexuality. And now that these things are being busted wide open, this is the last resort for them, is to try to kill the man that's investigating and showing the people. Because see, that's what's happening. The American people are seeing exactly what this Democratic Party is about, and they're trying to get rid of him in hopes to think that if we can get rid of Trump, then all of this will change. It's not going to change. So let me play a clip, guys, and then we'll talk about it.
About the accused gunman who charged a security checkpoint and exchanged gunfire with police outside the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday night.
The suspect, 31-year-old Cole Allen, is expected to appear in court today. Federal agents spent the day yesterday searching his California home, working to understand what led to the violence. Officials say Allen is a teacher, has no criminal record, and was not on the radar of law enforcement. He referred to himself as a, quote, friendly federal assassin in writing sent to his family members minutes before the attack.
Security cameras captured Allen rushing past the checkpoint, leading to a brief shootout before he was taken into custody. A Secret Service agent was shot but is okay. Authorities say Allen was armed with multiple weapons, including a shotgun, and believe he intended to target President Trump and other high-ranking officials.
Allen never made it inside the event, but panic set in for those who could hear the gunshots from outside, including local Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick. Action News reporter Catherine Scott is live along the Parkway this morning with more reaction from the Bucks County Republican. Catherine?
That's right. Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick was a former FBI agent, so he recognized the sound of gunshots. He said he tried to do his small part to try to keep people calm.
I heard a sound that is unfortunately all too familiar, so I knew something was wrong right away.
Pennsylvania Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick said he immediately recognized the sound of gunfire Saturday night during the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Immediately got people under the table that I was with.
Fitzpatrick's fiancée, Fox News correspondent Jackie Heinrich, was evacuated from the stage where she was sitting near Vice President J.D. Vance. The Bucks County Republican and thousands of other guests hunkered down in the ballroom until law enforcement gave the all clear.
Honestly, I was worried about Jackie. You know, she was at the head table. That was all I cared about. You know, and I tried to get back, but the Secret Service had, you know, assured me that she was okay.
It was a religious thing.
Heinrich is seen here interviewing the president by phone yesterday. Video released by the Trump administration apparently shows a suspect racing past the security checkpoint before being apprehended.
It's in a nanosecond. You saw how fast he was running.
Fitzpatrick was an FBI agent for 15 years. He says the shooting raises questions about a hotel serving as a venue for an event where so many top administration officials are in attendance.
Unlike a lot of other venues, sporting events, for example, the security and the magnetometers are well into the interior of the facility, but outside of the event. It just raises a lot of questions about whether a hotel is a safe venue when you have people that are not part of the event, not credentialed, not screened, but yet still in the building.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, what thoughts about that, Doc?
I see. I've been to a few events where President Donald Trump has been in attendance, and the security is crazy.
Yes.
Okay. And nobody gets in or out of the building who's not supposed to be there. We've had the Georgia Conference Center that's in near Cumberland Mall or something like that. There was also an event that was held in Norcross, and there was also another event that was held in South Carolina. I went to all three of those events, and those events ran long because of security and because they were trying to make sure that the perimeter was clear. He wasn't, he was just running, and the security was that tight. So for the security to be this loosey-goosey and he's the president makes no sense.
Well, you know what? When we went to the inauguration, when we were out there, guys, the security was hell.
It's
crazy.
You know, we couldn't even get in. You had to get an Uber way away from the White House. And then you had to turn around and walk in freezing cold just to get in. Then there was a line. So that's the type
there was
of
another
security.
checkpoint.
Yes. Yeah, that's the type of security that we should have in all events, because now that we see that these attempts are continuing, we really need to be able to make sure that President Trump is not assassinated, because I don't know why the Democrats think if we kill Trump that everything is going to change. Let me give the Democrats a little
Evil is
message.
dumb and stupid. It doesn't think.
Nothing going to change. If you kill him, it's going to get worse for you. So you might as well accept that you lost and that he's turning. That's what the big thing is. The Democrats are deceiving people. Yeah, they want it because they're not going to. The people have seen what the Democratic Party does. They can no longer hide behind this wall and say, well, so-and-so did it. They are doing these things out in the open now. And I think that's one of the things that are really, really getting into the craw of the American people and patriots across this country, especially Black Americans. Black Americans see that the Democratic Party has been the one who have been destroying our community. They got money in the prisons. I mean, they've done so much to try to destroy the Black community. The migrants are in our community. They're not nowhere else. What are your thoughts, Dre?
I don't like that the security has still not gotten better. I understand that guy broke through security like a 4'1" NFL linebacker, but you know, unless he's an alien, there was a checkpoint ahead of that he passed through with weapons on his person. So I have a lot of questions about who is going to be held accountable for these continued lapses in judgment for their security team, because someone has to be held accountable, because there are rumors that they're seeing pictures of people that were involved with the debacle in Butler, PA, that were working the security that are still on.
Right.
You know, like they have any leave that they had to take, administrative leave without pay? Did they go through any retraining? There's nothing given to the public about what's happening with these officers that are supposed to be protecting President Trump.
When you said, and we still haven't talked about the partial shutdown that's still going on. That's also an effect too. That could be
the CIA, some of the
also.
Secret Service members are not getting paid.
Nope.
A few of them getting paid, but their staffs have not been funded. And yet the Democrats are still sitting around trying to hold America hostage so they can give money to the illegals. And to me, that's created, that's really asinine. We're gonna play this clip about the guy that tried this assassination attempt. Check it out.
News has learned of disturbing new details about the alleged motive of 31-year-old Cole Allen, the man authorities say raced past security, allegedly willing to kill as many people as possible at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
It is clear, based upon what we know so far, that this individual was intent on doing as much harm and as much damage as he could.
Sources describe a message Cole Allen allegedly sent to his family before the attack. That message allegedly describes grievances against Trump administration officials, expressing how, if necessary, he would kill from the highest ranking to the lowest, including any Secret Service member that got in his way. He allegedly ends the message with a critique of hotel security, noting how his plan to check into the hotel allowed him to have weapons in the building without anyone knowing. Sources telling us that Allen allegedly snuck down 10 flights of stairs to go undetected before suddenly dashing toward that security checkpoint where he confronted police. In the note, he allegedly refers to himself as Cole, friendly federal assassin Allen. The FBI and Secret Service now launching a nationwide investigation. Within hours, FBI agents and a SWAT team were at the Allen family home in Torrance, California.
We believe that he traveled by train from Los Angeles to Chicago and then Chicago to Washington, D.C.
Allen got an engineering degree from Caltech in 2017 and went on to get a master's from Cal State last year. This interview appears to be the suspect in college showing an emergency brake he built for a wheelchair.
The wheelchair brakes tend to lock the wheels, but don't actually lock the chair to the ground. The idea with this is to prevent it from moving at all.
More recently, Allen has been working as a tutor, even once winning an award for Teacher of the Month. We expect to see Allen.
Okay, guys.
He's got to be a Manchurian candidate because that's improbable that they would actually have footage of him creating something. So he was tapped.
Yes,
he was tapped. Sorry.
And then to send a message to his family before you're about to try to assassinate the president, man, it's something completely wrong about it. What do you think about that, Dre?
Well, this is very similar to what happened in Butler because they had film of that kid and like some kind of promotional videos for Black Rock.
Sure did.
So it's just crazy.
It's not coincidence.
The circle of influence, the 7 degrees of separation that's happening between the people that are involved, the agencies, and all of this. So it just seems really strange. But yes, it's wild that he's like out there on social media saying that the security is trash. That's not bringing any attention to him. They should have been on him, monitoring his steps the entire
you following everybody else on the planet.
Before you got on the train.
Exactly.
Can't nobody buy a stick of gum without you knowing. Really?
But you know what, guys? Dre, when you said about Butler, because when you look at the Butler incident, people were reporting that they saw the guy laying on the roof.
Yeah.
You know, and so then another thing about Butler too is that they immediately killed him.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? There was no opportunities to try to capture him. They wanted his mouth shut. And I think that this guy is in the same vein. And I just believe that the Democrats are paying these people. And I don't know what they're paying. I don't know what manpower that they have over them to continue to try to make these attempts and put their lives and their families under scrutiny like that. For me, I just think that it's all planned by the Democrats. They're somehow reaching these people through some kind of way, and they got to offer them something. Because I got to tell you, now, if I had a family and stuff, ain't no way under God's son that I'm gonna go and attempt to try to kill the president of the United States and act just like it's just another day in the park. Your thoughts, Doc?
Well, it's not. Like I said, he's a maturing candidate. You know what I'm saying? These people are groomed, and we don't know when he was tapped, but we do know that he was, spotlighted. right? Oh, he's an engineer. He's a really smart person. Well, you tap all of the smart people because they're easier to control because you can manipulate them. Again, he's gotten something. There has been a gain. They probably won't do it, but they should monitor bank accounts to see if anybody's got a large sum of money that came to them, right? And the come up behind this with associated family members. And then trace the money back to who it came from. And look, Southern Poverty Law Center, you're still under scrutiny.
Well, you know what?
You're still under scrutiny. APAC, you're still under scrutiny. I'm just saying it's coming from somebody from somewhere who's trying to take down this administration. Why is it so important to you now? You didn't want to take down Biden. You didn't want to take down Obama. You didn't want to take down Clinton. And I can keep going back further. But this one.
Well, see, all the people that you mentioned was part of the problem that the Biden administration put out. They have been planning this since Obama. And after they stole the 2020 election, they thought that the 2024 elections, they was going to be able to steal that and continue to destroy this country. But they couldn't. It was too many eyes on it. And the American people went out and voted in droves to make sure Trump got back in office because he ran on the fact that we're going to make this country great again. We're going to get it back to the way it used to be. Marriage is between a man and a woman, not a man and a man. It's the Democratic Party who is the Antichrist party. I'm telling you, man, if we don't really disband them, they're going to try to destroy this country any way that they can. Dre, what your thoughts are?
Well, my thoughts are, I have questions about the engagement. And I wish we would have like someone that has like some sort of like law enforcement training, because I'm wondering why the guards at the front really didn't engage. Like I understand a moving target is hard to hit. I actually did some target practice, learning how to get my concealed carry, and I was terrible. And that was just a stationary shot. So I can only imagine that this guy's coming quickly. But the fact that 5 shots went off, and I don't know if those 5 shots came from the agents or if it came from him, but if he's able to get a shot off and then also was just apprehended and wasn't shot, wasn't killed, like the guy in Butler, Pennsylvania, I'm just wondering what's going on, because none of this.
It's an inside job. Stop that.
Yeah, it is.
It's an inside job. It was allowed. Okay. Like I just told you, I went to 3 different events with Donald Trump and he wasn't the president. And it took a long time. And they secured the perimeter and the building. How do you just let random people be in a building where you're going to have your complete cabinet in the building?
Yes. You know, and that's the thing too. You could look at this guy, man, and he blasted past. I was listening to Trump. He said the NFL need to sign this guy up.
Yeah. He's in the wrong line of work.
Yeah, man, look, he was just a blur when he shot by there. And so this whole thing was set up. I believe it was set up by the Democratic Party. I believe that that's what they're trying to do, is try to get the American people to just say, okay, you know what? We don't know who it is, but I just believe it's them. Your thoughts, Trey, about that?
Yeah, and I believe that it will all come out in the wash decades later, probably. But we're going to find out who these people really are, what was going on, and we're going to have real answers when it's eventually spilled out, like the Epstein's files were spilled out. Of course, with some names being crossed out and some T's being dotted after some people pass away. But I do think the truth will eventually come out.
Yeah, what this brings to mind is, anybody seen the movie Civil War? That was a documentary. That was not just a movie. It was a documentary. And the way everything popped off in that movie is there was an incident where there was a strike on the life of the president, right? And then people got divided because they were just like, okay, are you a real American or aren't you? That was the theme of the movie, but it popped off because of the civil discourse, right, between 2 different parties. That's how they got to where they were at in that movie.
Right.
What are they doing now? They're trying to get
Absolutely.
the pop off. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, because it's just too many attempts that are going down now. The fact that he was shot at Butler and all of this, you would think that the security would be really tight everywhere he goes. But this hotel was the same place where Ronald Reagan got shot. So we have to really look at this venue, and we have to really pay close attention to what's happening, because if Reagan was shot there right outside after an event, now here you are, people was allowed to come inside. Where's the hotel security as well? You know what I'm saying? So we have to
Well,
think about that. Go ahead, Doc.
yeah, again, there should have been no other individuals allowed to check in to the hotel as a hotel guest with
Mhm.
such high profile. The president is there with his cabinet. You have White House press there. No one should have been in the building. It should have been like, if you're a guest, you have to be checked out by 11 a.m.
Mhm.
this day. So the building is empty. Okay.
Yes.
And nobody gets to be in the building until the following day after the event. So you can make sure that there's no shenanigans going on in the building. What if they
But
would have
how
planted a bomb in the building? Right?
exactly.
You don't know. Like, why are you letting random people
Mhm.
be allowed in the building just because it's a hotel with an event like that going on?
But Doc, you said something a few minutes ago that we've been discussing. The Southern Poverty, what is it? The
Oh, the
SPLC,
Southern Poverty Law Center,
Law
SPLC.
Center, who have been supposed to have been the organization who would take down uh organizations that are terrorist groups and domestic terrorists like the Ku Klux Klan and all of this. They have always been that organization who was supposed to stand up for the American people. Your thoughts on that, Doc, while I cue this video up.
Well, I did watch Alex Jones, and they had talked years ago about manufactured events, and some of the events did actually, after they were investigated, it did come to light that they had been manufactured. Now,
Mhm.
when it comes to these 11 counts that the DOJ has brought against the Southern Poverty Law Center, which can now be proved, it really shows that, okay, they manufactured racism in order
Mhm.
to have it, because they have to have the division to keep us in the masses, right? Separated from the elites, so that we're fighting one another and we're really not making the demands at the political level that we should be. Yeah, the Southern Poverty Law Center, they are owned by the Democratic Party, by the way.
Yes, they are.
I'm not saying that there are not a few Republicans involved in it, but the Democratic Party are responsible for these people.
I'm gonna play this lawsuit with Cash.
Today is to announce what the general just told you. The Southern Poverty Law Center, in a massive, sweeping indictment, has been charged with allegations of fraud and using the banking system to perpetrate that fraud. I just want to talk about a couple of brief things here. The Southern Poverty Law Center themselves advertise to raise money to dismantle violent extremist groups for a period of at least a decade. They use their donor network to raise money to purportedly dismantle violent extremist groups. However, the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, used the money they raised from their donor network to actually pay the leadership of these very groups. I just want to say that again. They used the fraudulently raised money by lying to their donor network, thousands of Americans, to go ahead and actually pay the leadership of these supposed violent extremist groups. The groups, as the general laid out, include the Ku Klux Klan, the United Klans of America, Unite to Right, National Alliance, the National Socialist Movement, the Aryan Nation Motorcycle Club, and the National Socialist Party of America, and also the American Front. In at least one of these matters, our investigation revealed that funds were used to facilitate the commission of further state and federal offenses, totaling over $3 million. Furthermore, our investigation revealed that the Southern Poverty Law Center, on top of perpetuating this widespread, decade-long, multi-million-dollar fraud, conducted more criminal activity. They attempted to hide their criminal activity from our financial banking network. they set up shell companies and entities around America so that the financial institutions that we rely on as everyday Americans were deceived in believing that money was not coming from the Southern Poverty Law Center in the perpetration of this scheme and fraud, but rather fictitious entities they stood up to perpetuate this ongoing fraud. This is a serious and egregious violation of a group that purported to dismantle violent extremist groups, but in turn actually only fueled the hatred. This is an important case brought by President Trump's administration. We're thankful to the president for his leadership and funding of not just the FBI and DOJ, but his commitment to go out there and wipe out fraud and conspiracy and waste and abuse wherever it occurs, including the Southern Poverty Law Center.
All right, Doc, your thoughts.
Well, I mean, I'm glad they got the Southern Poverty Law Center, but I'm like, when are you going to go after the ADL? Right? Because they're next. Because here's the deal. They've been manufacturing racism. And I'm not saying that racism doesn't occur, because we have seen it on a smaller scale that actually does happen. But what it does is it dilutes when racism actually occurs, because when it does, people are going to question it now. They're going to be like, okay, were you supported by these groups like the ADL or the Southern Poverty Law Center or the NAACP or the Urban League? You know what I'm saying? Are you going to actually look into these matters? Because now everybody's going to be like, are you crying wolf? I'm just saying.
Well, you know what, Doc? You're so correct on that, because organizations like the NAACP that used to be, and I would say never have been to help Black people. The NAACP has always made money off the Black community and hid the fact, just like this organization did. They made people think, and they're donating money to an organization that's trying to help end racism and bring equality and all of that. And the money that they received, probably the NAACP got much more money than that in their coffers, because they diverted money to the NGOs, like you said, Doc. You're talking about the fraternities and sororities, all these other organizations in the Black community, Urban League. They're supporting this illegal immigration. You know, you would think the NAACP would have been standing up for the Black community because of all the atrocities that our community face. You haven't heard them say a word. You heard Al Sharpton talking about, we need to support the illegals. I mean, this is totally ridiculous. And the Black community is steady going down. The Black community is steady being annihilated and destroyed. And I haven't heard Al get up and say, you know what, we need to stand up for the Black community. You know, before Jesse died, he is part of the problem, because these guys continue to use the Black community to squeeze dollars out of them and make us think that they're actually fighting for us when they're not. It's totally ridiculous. I'm going to grab another clip. Doc, what are your thoughts on that with these NGOs, Doc?
They need to be stopped. $14.2 trillion. All I'm saying is that's $14.2 trillion of taxpayer money.
Yes.
They didn't just get this money. That's taxpayer money. And it needs to be stopped. All grants, all government contracts that go to these non-governmental agencies, stop it. Shut it off. You have the ability to do that. Okay. And they don't have the right to this money. Okay.
Yes.
Really,
I mean, it's taxpayer dollars. That's what I don't understand. How do they keep getting taxpayer dollars and millions of dollars, but nothing is reflecting in the communities they say they represent? You know, you would think with all the Black politicians and all the athletes and all of that, the Black community would at least stabilize. It has not stabilized. It has continued to down spiral, and our communities to become war zones. I'm going to play a little bit more information about this Southern Poverty leadership.
Southern Poverty Law Center and the dark money behind it now under intense scrutiny after the group's indictment over allegations it funneled $3 million to racist extremist organizations.
So who was writing the big checks? Roughly $2.5 million came from big-name donors, including George Clooney, Tim Cook, J.P. Morgan Chase, and even contributions tied to Chick-fil-A.
Let's bring in Project 21 chairman Horace Cooper. Horace, nice to see you tonight. Okay, I just want to, can I start with that donor list, those names? You know, we're talking about the hot water that SPLC might be in, but if you're one of those donors right now, are you more irate at what they didn't tell you, or are you more concerned about what you might have participated in?
You know, my grandmother always told me, a fool and his money will soon be parted. Here we are, some of the most elite, some of the most capable, competent, financially savvy entities, maybe not George Clooney, but generally speaking, writing handsome checks to an organization that is actually simply creating its own problem. It's almost like having a company that says we deal and we will go anywhere to address toxic waste dumps, only to find out that they bring the toxicity with them so that they have something to do that they can charge handsomely for.
Mm-hmm. Horace, I'm sure you've gone through the indictment. How tight is the indictment? And when 11 counts in this indictment, but I don't believe that this is the end of it. Not for this organization, potentially, but other organizations of its ilk.
Well, I've looked through the indictment, and the primary issue here is how much of it involves financial actions that are unlawful. And those types of crimes are very, very difficult to defend against. I couldn't accidentally create another entity as my pass-through. I couldn't accidentally have that entity send multiple hundreds of thousands or even millions to third parties. This is the problem when the organization says our purpose is to resolve and address and help keep minimized bigotry and racism in America. But when that problem was solved, apparently, they worked like those toxic waste dump cleanup people and started creating their own. They did so with these financial transactions that are very serious and very, very difficult to defend against.
You know, if you create the problem that you say you were designed to solve as a charity, do you lose your charity status? Could they be stripped of their tax classification because actually they're making the problem worse instead of fixing it?
Well, if they get convicted of more than one of these 11 counts, they're very, very likely going to forfeit their nonprofit status. Here in America today, they looked around and they said, there's just not enough homegrown bigotry. And apparently they couldn't find foreigners to come in and do the bigotry, so they had to do the bigotry themselves by contracting out. It's novel, it's clever, it's dastardly, and it's also illegal.
Right. And see, they don't talk about some of the money. Okay, so we're going to do a little time travel. Let's go back to outside of the Southern Poverty Law Center under the Obama administration. Okay, they did a clawback, because all these banks went around and they defrauded people to their knowledge, right? When they clawed back that money from those banks that they actually say, let's just talk about that, they diverted that money to the Southern Poverty Law Center, to La Raza, to all these other entities to keep the race mechanisms going. The problem isn't the money that they got to be funded to make sure that racism didn't occur. The problem is they were manufacturing false racist events. That's the problem. And they were doing it and paid. And it's not a crime to have a 501c4. Right?
No, not at all.
501c4 actually protects a 501c3 because they can get donors that know that they don't have to disclose. They didn't show those donors because they don't have to be disclosed. They just disclosed the donors that gave directly to the 501c3.
Right? Well, you know what, Doc? You're correct on that because when you take a look at how the NGOs themselves who use DEI, but that's how they was able to suck the money out of the government when they created the DEI, talking about it was no more than another affirmative action. Affirmative action did not help the Black community. It only allowed those who wanted to discriminate against Blacks to be able to use that title to get the people in office that they wanted. You know, the affirmative action only allowed 10% minority participation, but at the same time, that 10% was covered by women. It was covered by other minorities. I mean, it should have been specifically for Black people, because Black people have always been at the butt of getting jobs or being hired in companies. So that itself, and it got millions and trillions of dollars, but it never ever benefited the Black community in no kind of way. And I just think that this law center, not only do the people need to go to prison, but there needs to be an investigation to all these other NGOs who've been getting the money, like the Urban League, NAACP. I mean, you name it, they've gotten rich off the plight of saying that we're gonna help Black people. But Doc, you know what's funny is that, you know, we got Mr. Binky on the show. That's all Mr. Binky says. Mr. Binky said they create the problem
to solve.
To solve.
They create the problem, but the solution that they bring in is worse than the problem they're trying to solve. And it's very interesting because these entities popped up right around the time I was born. I was born in 1971. And so they've been in place for over 50 years, which is still older than the civil rights movement, which was put in place to destroy the Black community. Everybody thinks it was put in place to help us. It was not, because we're not doing better. Even though people, well, yeah, we're doing, no, we're not.
But Doc,
can you imagine where we would be without civil rights? Oh my goodness.
We would, exactly, because we would be able to get out on our own like it was before all of the civil rights stuff got in.
And no
Black
government control.
Right. The Black community was self-contained. They had their own businesses and all of that. And people were like, well, the government should be doing this. Why was the Black community doing so well when it wasn't welfare, when it wasn't all these NGOs like these other places? Why is that? Now you see the power that Black people have because they reinvested into themselves. And that's what made our communities progress. Now we got generations who have sit back, who have been on welfare. A lot of people, man, haven't gotten the education that they should have. There's been no reinvestment from the Black politicians to the Black community. So it has been Black politicians along with the racist white ones who their whole thought is we got to stop the Black community from growing. That's why they created Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood. 58 million Black babies were aborted in this country. The list goes on, and we're seeing it now. Schools been invaded with homosexuality. The children aren't learning nothing. I mean, half of them can't count. The Black community, or read. And the Black community is at a place right now where if we don't start to really weed out all of these bad people, our communities are dying quickly. There is no strength in our Black community anymore. And I just have to let Black people know, if we don't stand behind President Trump, if we don't stand up for what he's trying to do to make us self-sufficient, then we're going to be extinct. What are your thoughts, Doc, while I cue this other thing?
I think we need to just start standing up for ourselves and stop getting behind any and all politicians, right? And put people in place that actually do represent us and not their own self-interest and not the interest of these corporations. It is time for us to say, you know what? Thank you, but no thank you. We're going to do what our ancestors did and get it out the mud. And make sure that we have proper representation, but that we are leading ourselves. We don't need you to do this because you've already put us in the position where we know we don't need you because we already have proof of concept. Okay. So I hear what you're saying. in supporting Donald Trump, because there are some things like the 14th Amendment that he's pushing for to make sure that these illegals can get up off the soil and illegal immigration can no longer invade our country the way it has been. So there are policies, yes, that Donald Trump has, but we have to get out of this mindset that we need anybody to help us. We don't. We need each other. Right?
Yes.
But we don't need these leaders anymore because they have proven failure. They have
Yes.
proven that they do not want to help this country. They've proven that they want to destroy it. I'm
Yes.
just saying. They've shown us
And
that.
to the Black community, we see exactly what the motto is. The motto is not about making our community strong. The motto is using our communities to get the money to say that they're going to help us, and yet we're not advancing at all. It's just like Chicago. You know, I'm sitting here looking at over the weekend, you know, the poor leadership. All the Black aldermen who have supported Brandon Johnson need to be removed. And that's the reason why, man, I'm saying to the people of Chicago and the state of Illinois, we have to get rid of the type of leadership that J.B. Pritzker has brought for 2 terms, and nothing in the Black community has advanced. And then you brought this idiot Brandon Johnson into Chicago, and he was bought and paid for, and he's only carrying out what Barack Obama and Lori Lightfoot started to destroy the city and make the city go bankrupt. Doc, your thoughts on that while I get ready to cue this thing that happened over the weekend in Chicago?
Marxism is real, and they had the Black community buy into it. And I know a lot of people are like, well, why would you really, target the Black community? Because we were the only people without the help of government that were able to turn it around out the mud. That's what I'm saying. We were the only people that actually did it. And they were like, okay, we can't let them get too strong, because if they get too strong and powerful, they'll come after us. That proves that we have betas in leadership and not alphas. Now, I'm not going to put Trump in the beta category because he is more of an alpha. He's more of a bull in the china shop. But I'm saying up until him, we do have these alphas that they demand, okay? And this is the wrong part. They demand our allegiance to them in a way that they are ruling over us. And that is not how the United States was set up. It was set up that the people have freedom in our government.
And I was listening to a show, and how was the Black community so powerful when we didn't have welfare? See, when we didn't have welfare, we owned businesses. You're talking about the Black Wall Street. You're talking about our education. Our children were smart academically. I mean, we had trades in our own schools, teaching them how to weld, be machinists. All of the things that was happening in the Black community, all of a sudden, when they brought the welfare in, created generations of Black people who did not strive. See, when we came up, we had to strive for what we want. I watched my parents work for $1 a day, and I said, they were in a plantation mode. And their whole mindset was, when we left Arkansas to come to Chicago, it was for a better way of life. And in saying that, that's the reason why this birthright crap needs to be ended immediately. The birthright does not apply to the 14th Amendment. And it's an easy case. All the justices have to do and say, this is what the Constitution says, that this law was created for Black citizens. Because the Democrats were the ones who did not want this law. They voted against the 14th Amendment. They voted against the 15th Amendment. They voted against everything that would make Black people equal citizens in this country. And so there's nothing in here that said if you have a baby on the soil that you are automatically a citizen. No. This was all a ploy by the Democrats to study weaken the Black community so that they could do what they're doing now and get the people like Brandon Johnson in the office continue to destroy us. Let's read this.
They claimed English common law to justify birthright citizenship because we have no just soil. Common law. And that's what I need people to realize. They use it. They're like, well, we just have, English common. No, we don't. We have United States common law, right? That came out of necessity. That is why it is called common. But we do not subscribe to UK common law because we are not citizens of the UK. We are American citizens.
But you know what that bothers me the most is the law states clearly that they're for Black Americans.
It does.
They're not for Hispanics. They're not for Kuwait. They're not for
anybody. That's why it says or naturalized.
Exactly. So the Democrats have twisted it with DACA and all of this. The Supreme Court needs to just go read the law on what it is and who it was for and end this birthright citizenship and get all of these people out of the country.
Well, DACA was already deemed illegal.
Yes.
It was already deemed illegal 10 years ago. And they still haven't fixed it because
And they
Congress
still
hasn't
use
fixed it because Congress only has the ability to upend or amend immigration law, and they haven't done anything. Why is that? Because they would actually have to amend the Constitution. They'd have to go back in and mess with the Bill of Rights, pretty much. And they're not going to do it because they, you know what I'm saying? They're not, because then they would be signing on to treason because that would cause an invasion in our country. So they're not going to be guilty of treason. Come on.
But you know what, Doc? This is the sad thing about it is that, all of these different people who have come to this country has used that 14th Amendment to justify them being here when, like I said, it was only created for Black people to be naturalized, not for Hujo and anybody else coming in here. So the Democrats and to the American people and patriots across this country, especially Black people, everything in that Constitution was concerning those amendments was because the Black community who built United States, who you took inventions from, who they gave their lives to fight for this country in all the wars, not just one, but all the wars, all the way back to the Civil War. And yet here we are in our communities that has been decimated by these different NGOs and the racism, like the Southern Poverty Law Center. All of these things have used this type of reverse discrimination attitude to say, well, these problems are here. So guess what? We can fix it. Just give us the money so we can fix it. And they're the ones who created the problems. Doc, I want to play this before we get out of here. What happened over the weekend in Chicago, and we'll talk about it.
A Chicago police officer is dead and another is fighting for their life after a shooting at a Northside hospital on Saturday. Investigators say the suspect is in custody. WGN's Angelica Sanchez has the latest on this heartbreaking investigation. Good morning, Angie.
Good morning, Jewel. We're outside Illinois Masonic Hospital where the surviving officer is in critical condition. The shooting itself happened at a separate hospital where health officials there said the suspect came in as a patient. They say that he was searched for weapons, but still he managed to get a hold of a gun and opened fire on the two officers. A procession escorts the body of a 38-year-old Chicago police officer killed in the line of duty Saturday morning. The department has yet to release his identity, but for now confirms he was with the force for 10 years.
Every single day that an officer gets up and put on his or her uniform, they don't really know if they're ever going to return home. They understand that that is a hazard of this job.
According to Chicago police, two officers were involved in a shooting that occurred at Endeavor Health Swedish Hospital, located on the 5100 block of North California Avenue in Lincoln Square. Authorities say a male suspect wanted in connection with the robbery was taken to the hospital for medical attention. Hospital officials say he was checked for weapons upon arrival and was escorted by law enforcement at all times, but he eventually managed to get a hold of a gun and opened fire on the officers.
I got a code red, unknown what's going on. They said there are two officers down.
Police have not released his name, but WGN Investigates has obtained a surveillance image that was circulated as he ran away from the scene. Meantime, the second officer involved is listed in critical condition. The department confirms he is 57 years old and has been with the force for over 20 years.
Today is a real difficult moment for our city. It's a tragedy.
Community members line the streets to show the department and the fallen officers' loved ones their support.
I think with how things are now, just supporting the police, whether it's CPD or your local municipality, show them that you care, we're there for them, and just wave at them, say hello, because they deserve it.
Doc, you know, I want to give my condolences to the families of these fallen officers. And that idiot, Brandon Johnson, continues to try to defund the police departments in the city of Chicago. You know, I'm surprised that they even let him be at this event, because his whole mission is to try to destroy the police department and get crime to the place where it is now, so that their hands have been tied. I just think that this is a sad day for the citizens of Chicago and for our police department, who are overworked and underpaid. Like I said, when I take over the city, I'm going to make sure that we get the officers we need. We're probably down maybe about 3,000 to 5,000 officers that need to be in the city. I want to make sure that they're funded correctly so that we can curtail this violence and be much more thorough for the people of Chicago, and be transparent, because what we've seen from the Brandon Johnson administration is not the support for our Chicago police or any other entities, but he continues to support illegal aliens, migrants who come to this country, who've been in our city causing crimes and all sorts of other mayhem, Doc. So I'm just going to pray, and I ask the American people and patriots across this country to pray for these officers who was murdered. I would say murdered in this case. And I ask the people of Chicago, it's election time coming. And I guarantee you, when I take that 5th floor, things are going to change, not only for the Black community, but all the communities, so we can make Chicago great again. Your last thoughts, Doc? We got to get out of here.
Yeah, but definitely my condolences go out to the family and definitely the community, because for this to happen into a hospital, you know, that's horrible. But, you know, being down the officers, not having the manpower, but they're also handcuffed by the city. I don't think people realize that, by the policies that have been put forth from this administration. You see things that happen in Chicago, you're like, why is this happening? Because it's the policies. There are things that the police can't do and that they're not allowed to do because of the policies. I mean, it's happening in Los Angeles and everywhere else. But this is truly unfortunate, because I'm like, how did somebody get a weapon inside of the hospital when they do have, you know, the screening that you have to go through, the metal detectors, and then this man is running naked down the street.
I was just going to say that.
I'm like, what was going on? Was he a plant? Was he purposely there to do what he did? I mean, I have questions. That's all.
Well, you know, and I have to agree with you about that, because how are you naked running down the streets? Because there's no way you could have had a gun. So my thought is, he must have attacked the police officer, snatched his gun, and then shot them with it, man. It's a sad day for law enforcement across the country when we have fallen officers like this. And I'm going to continue to pray for the families.
But I'm sorry, I want to say, do you think it could be something that the Democrats will use to talk about gun violence? Because we haven't heard that conversation yet. But do you think, between these two incidences, between the one in Chicago and between the one in DC, I'm waiting for that conversation. See, we have so much gun violence and we need to get rid of the guns. See, they want it, and this is just a side conversation. What are they willing to do to disarm the public and question the Second Amendment? I'm just saying.
So when you disarm the public, then the migrants and everybody else is going to run rapid, killing American citizens. And the sad thing of it is, Doc, they won't even be in jail, because just like the illegal migrants that killed Megan Boss, he was out the same day on bail after he cut her head off, had sex with her body, and then put it into ammonia or something. So, you know, there needs to be a real change in Chicago and all the blue states in the United States of America. And we need to get true leadership into these positions and make the changes and make sure the money goes where it's supposed to be instead of the politicians' pockets. Your last words, Doc.
Yeah, and it's not just happening in red states, in blue states. It's happening in red states. In Georgia, here where I live, there was an illegal. He wasn't illegal. He was a naturalized citizen. Got naturalized in 2022. He didn't kill 1, 2, but 3 people, and he's been released every single time. He's finally in custody after the 3rd person, but he killed somebody that was a DHS employee, and he lives in a red technically state, and he had been released after her murder. And they know he did it. Okay. And then he went and murdered someone else. So what is it going to take? What is it going to take? You know, things have to change. And, you know, that is why we do have the USA Redemption Party that I funded. We are looking for servants of the people, not politicians, because as you can see, I'm sorry, but the Republicans and the Democrats, they've been in leadership long enough, and they've shown us that they do not care about this country. And we need people to serve the people. We need servants of the people. So definitely check out USARedemptionParty.com. That's USARedemptionParty.com.
Thanks, Doc. We'll get it in on Wednesday. I know Binky will be here and the rest of the staff, and we'll go full because we need to discuss what's going on with our country. We need to talk about all the things that are happening. So blessings to you. We'll see you on Wednesday if you got time. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in. And I ask you guys to go to our platform. Our platform is letthetruthbetold.lightcast.com. You'll be able to see the show there. It airs, you know, every Monday through Friday. And I'm urging people to go to letthetruthbetold.lightcast.com because no longer can we stay on Facebook. Facebook continues to shadow ban. They break our stream. And if you go to our platform, letthetruthbetold.lightcast.com, you would see the show in its entirety. You will be no breaks because that's the platform that we own. These are my last words. To the American people and patriots across this country, this is the third time that they've tried to assassinate President Trump. And you would think from this point on that we need to tighten up our belts. We need to make sure that when the president goes places, that there's a structure of security that can protect him. And the reason why we're seeing these things, it's not like President Trump is doing anything that's wrong, but what he is doing is trying to get America back to a place where it should be. I heard President Trump say, well, maybe this was a religious guy. It could be. But the fact of the matter is, God blesses a child that has his own. And his words are, he made marriage between a man and a woman. All the stuff that Trump is doing is trying to get us back in a structure so that we can grow again. And to the American people and patriots across this country, if we don't stand with him and we don't do the right thing, if we don't support him and get all the bad leadership out of this country will never be great again. God bless you. I look forward to seeing y'all on Wednesday.